There are a few things that you need to do when you earn money. Certainly, it's a privilege to be managing money. And very important to know that money that you earn from your own activities and efforts is part of your wealth. And therefore, when you get money coming to you, it forms the basis on which you build wealth. Money itself is the foundation of prosperity. But it is important to know that each time that you earn it and you have no plan for it, money will always find a plan for itself. So money cannot be kept by somebody who has no plan for it. It's one thing to work hard and earn it, but once you have it, you've got to know what you are going to do with it because it will demand a plan. So the first thing that you need to know when you earn money, the first thing you need to do actually is to budget. What is a budget? A budget is a plan of action which tells your money where it needs to go. If you don't have a plan or a budget, money will always find a plan of where it needs to go. Therefore, make no mistake of earning money and just keeping it without telling it what it needs to do, because it will disappear. It will find a purpose. It will find a pocket that it will go into. It will find somebody's hands that it will go into. So the first thing you need to do when you earn money, make a budget. What is a budget in simple terms? A budget is a plan in quantitative terms of how you plan to spend your money. What would be a typical budget for somebody who is an employee, for example? Let's look at a typical budget. When you earn money, you need to tell it how much you're going to pay for rent in the form of rent, how much you're going to use for transport to and from work, how much are you going to use as grocery food items, how much are you going to spend on fuel if you are driving a car, how much are you going to spend on entertainment if you have a telephone service or a mobile phone, how much are you going to spend on internet services. All those things, you need to quantify them step by step. Identify all those things that you actually need to spend in the period that you are paid until the next pay period. That's a budget for either a month or bi-weekly. You could actually do a budget for an entire year, because pretty much a budget is a plan of action of how you want to spend the money. It doesn't necessarily have to be done when you receive the money. The best time you can do a budget is when you haven't received the money, because by that time you are thinking sober, and by that time you are really taking into consideration the things that you actually need for the next month or for the next 6 months or for the next 12 months. Therefore, it is important to pay attention to all the things that you plan to do and think through how much they are going to cost. And think through also the timing, and think through whether you need to sequence them one after the other, or you need to space them, for example, every 3 months or every 2 months. For example, car repairs. You don't necessarily have to repair a car every month, depending on how new the car is. If it's a relatively new car, you probably need to repair the car every maybe 6 months, and maybe it goes for major service, or maybe every 2 months it goes for light service, and so on and so forth. So that spacing is very important. So the point I'm making here is that you need to think through making a budget, but making a budget also requires you to draw it and put it in writing. Most people prefer to make a budget in their heads. That's one other big pitfall of making a budget. If you make a budget and keep it in your head, unless you have photogenic memory meaning you can write it down and you can keep in your memory exactly what you have written and how you're going to spend. That's fine. But for majority of people, they don't have that photogenic memory. So they will need to write it down, and as they spend, they need to go and refer back to what they wrote down. That's very useful, because then they can stay within their budget. If you don't do that, what is the impact? The impact is you are going to forget, and you are going to be spending, because if you are paying with an ATM card or with cash, not making reference to where you have written, or just making reference to what you think you need in your head, you are bound to forget, and you are bound to overspend, and you are bound not to remember where your money has gone. So remember, the first thing you need when you earn money, before you start spending, make a budget. If you need to know how to make a budget, I will give you a more detailed session in the next coming weeks. I'll be having similar sessions in the coming weeks and months. Happy to teach you more on budgeting. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do so we can learn together and move along on improving ways of managing finances. Managing finance is as important as keeping good health. If you don't, you will likely lose your health. If you don't manage your finances, you will likely end up with that money, even if you work every day. Working every day is not a guarantee that you will have money. Money will always disappear to someone who is not careful. Exercising care with money starts with establishing a budget. The budget needs to be written down. Write it down. Write it down.